Hello everybody, welcome back to the Overlap Breakdown YouTube channel. Manchester United and Erik ten Hag have parted ways. I'm joined by former Manchester United coach René Meulensteen as we break down some of the tactical deficiencies of Erik ten Hag's Manchester United and some of the technical concerns of the overall squad. Now that Ruud van Nistelrooy took over as caretaker head coach, do you believe he can be the man to steer the ship, or do you think Ineos need to appoint their own head coach to spearhead this new project? As always, I want to say thank you to our guest René Meulensteen, who was absolutely amazing on this tactical breakdown piece, and we hope you enjoy it too. What do you make of Manchester United, not only this season, but under Erik ten Hag in the way they've constructed the squad and what they have to work with?
Yeah, it's a good question to look at it, Harrison. Well, let's go through it from back to front, and I think there's no discussion that Onana is the first, the main goalkeeper, the first team goalkeeper. If you then look to the back line, the back four, so to speak, obviously we know the problems we had with Luke Shaw and Malacia that he brought in.
Yeah.
So we have had makeshift left back in Dalot has played there, Mazraoui has played there, even Martinez has played there.
Yeah.
If you look at the centre back's position, Martinez is probably preferably he wants him to play there, but you got the experienced head of Johnny Evans there as well. He can play there. On here, he's brought the Ligt in. Yeah, obviously we all know from Ajax, Bayern Munich, still finding his feet. You got Harry Maguire, obviously sustained quite a little bit of injuries.
Yeah.
Obviously Lindelof can play there. If you look at this here, consistent? Not consistent.
No.
I mean, I don't know how many lineups he's already been picked, and it's changed all the time. One of the things that a lot of good teams try to do and try to keep is keep that consistent, that back line, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's already one of the area where Manchester United struggled a little bit. If you look at the midfield, the sort of people in the midfield, obviously you got Casemiro, you got Eriksen, experienced players, won all the stuff, played at the height end. The one thing that I still find with Casemiro, a lot of times in a lot of games, he's had so many silly turnovers that led to chances and even goals, right? Both of them as a double pivot. Yes, on the ball, fantastic, no problem at all. The game stretches, I think they lack energy and legs to cover the distances, especially if they're not helped with them players. Obviously, we got Ugarte is brought in as a new player. We got Kobe Mino, who's obviously come to the scene. He's not really, really well. Unfortunately, been injured. This position, basically Bruno Fernandes, as we know. I think he's obviously still a very, very important player for the team.
Yeah.
He gives rhythm, he plays forward, he's a threat, can create chances, score goals. Again, on left-hand side, we got obviously Garnacho, another young player that's come through the ranks, you know, quick, direct, individual. Problem is, again, that also Rashford is actually his best position on this side.
Yeah.
So when either one has to swap sides, you know what I mean, they're not really in the best or most comfortable positions. Anyway, on the right-hand side, obviously they brought in Anthony, which in my opinion is, I think, the biggest disappointment of all to come in for that sort of money.
Yeah, big time.
Really one-dimensional. Again, it shows, and it's happened many, many, many times again, that if you do your recruitment, if you look at it, you have to really, really look what league are they coming from. And this player in particular, there's a few others, but obviously come from the Dutch league, and the Dutch league has got its qualities and its charm and all that, but you cannot compare it with the Premier League.
Yeah. What would you say is missing from that league that maybe the Premier League doesn't? Is it intensity?
It's just the quality.
The quality,
the quality overall, and the tempo. The Dutch league is played at such a smaller tempo. See, if you play for Ajax, PSV or Feyenoord, in all those games, you can turn up in 6-7 games and you can win that game in third gear. Yeah. No problem at all. You know what I mean? And in the Premier League, you can't do that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Even the top teams like Man City that has to go, you know, to Southampton, who are, you know, in the bottom three or bottom four, they have to work hard for it. And they only come away with a 1-0. Yeah. So anyway, so you got some issues there. You got young Diallo there as well, young players there. Obviously up front here, you got Højlund, brought in as a striker. Did it justify the fact that he had, you know, that season in Italy, in Atalanta, I think he came from. Zirkzee has come in, but Zirkzee is not really like a striker. He's more like a
9.5.
9.5. That's what he did in Bologna, you know, likes to drop in the pockets and you know, links the play and go forward. So the thing is this again, straight away with this squad, you know, you got a bit of inconsistency in the back line, apart from the goalkeeper. Yeah. A lot of changes in that middle bit as well. And then obviously, like I said, there's a bit of an imbalance because two players in the same positions who, you know, were justified to start, and probably you lack a little bit on this side with obviously Anthony now obviously injured as well, and Diallo still got to be a player and a promising player.
Yeah, so I think one of the things you just touched on there was the midfield too, and how the game can get stretched off the ball and they don't survive. Manchester United this season, we spoke about it earlier, but Manchester United this season have moved to more of a 4-2-4 out of possession. So this is kind of what you'll see with the wingers really high and wide. Now, Manchester United in 2024 as an entire have conceded the 13th most expected goals in the league. And I would say, and I think you'll probably agree, that a lot of it has come from this isolation in midfield and kind of the spaces around. What do you make of Manchester United out of possession? How do you think, what do you think Erik ten Hag's trying to do with the high wingers, the two centre forwards out of possession, but also the isolation that he has in midfield? What do you think he's trying to gain from that shape?
Well, I think you're right, it has been the problem of last season massively, because you created that massive hole. You know, if we put a bit more of a realistic picture here, let's say if we move them up there, you know what I mean, you move these guys higher, you know, like say they're the strikers, and then the midfielders in there. So these are the two centre backs, and these are the wing backs, yeah. So the one thing is, so if you go like this and you start pressing with it, you've got these two in the midfield here. That distance from here to there, that has to be compact.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case a lot of times. That was one of the problems. The other problem is that when you do go for a kind of a press, it's very important that all the players understand the cues. But, you know, if the ball is with the centre backs, I'll be pressing on the first pass, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then go, and he has to go, you know what I mean? And then they all have to step up. Or are we waiting for that ball to come here, to then press? Then we make sure that these guys are locked in. And that's one of the problems of Man United as well. If you do that, this player has to come in.
But he stays wide.
Exactly, and that's been the problem.
Yeah.
So they've been able to find those players. And then suddenly, if they are too deep, if they are all too deep, these guys, and these guys come sort of in these positions in the pocket, look what happens. And they haven't got the legs to cover that.
So would you say Manchester United they're not consistently locking off the pitch? They're not cutting the pitch in half?
They haven't done that. And I think this, with the wingers, is a clear problem. What you want with the wingers to say is sometimes you go forward to whatever is this. But the key what you want is that this press, this guy, is go here to then do that.
Yeah.
He will probably press, no problem. If he goes that, then press through. He goes to the goalkeeper, then everything has to go through. That's the only way to do it. But the key is that these players here, they work in conjunction with them. And that is what we don't see.
Yeah.
The problem is, what we see is that they are there and they are there. So they are left swimming.
Yeah.
That's been the biggest issue.
Yeah.
Plus the fact of that sometimes, like say, the cues are not there. You know, whatever, the ball is played, and Bruno thinks, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And he goes, but nobody goes.
So then they just play out of it and they've got one man.
So he's gone.
Yeah.
And then it's easy to play through here. There's an overload here because they got this extra man, especially if this guy comes here behind them. You know what I mean? You get all sorts. If you then maybe have this side, it comes lopsided. So this, you got two guys now. You got that box. And this guy moves on. And if he doesn't track, right? Then you got another problem. That is what a lot of teams have been doing.
So something we've alluded to is that kind of the best teams in the world, best teams in Europe do go man-to-man across the back line. So I think Manchester City trust their players like Akanji, Diaz, Gavardi, all these sort of players to go man-to-man. I feel one thing that I've seen a lot with Erik ten Hag's Manchester United is kind of they don't trust each other, and maybe the manager doesn't kind of trust the players to go one-to-one. I think Martinez has often, sometimes, as you said, this season played left back. They've got De Ligt in there. They've got Mazraoui, Dalot. And I think this is an often situation where they always leave a +1. Would you say that leaving a +1 is staggering them when it comes to the wide players, the extra man in midfield?
Well, you've got to be man short.
Yeah.
Because if you look, for instance, this scenario, let's say Bruno's done that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is the three, the press. And let's say he has to come out, right? He has to go, no problem, right? The ball is on this side, let's say the ball's on this side, he has to come 50-50. You know what I mean? So he can come a bit across, so they cover them both. This, man to man, up, and these guys slide. That's the scenario. Now, it will be like this because these guys will be, let's say, here. So we talked about that compact shape.
Yeah.
These will come back because if they're not, they stay offside. So basically, this is what you want. Yeah, the compactness. So they have to come back. They have to come back. Otherwise they are offside. You have to worry about obviously this player, but that is a hell of a pass to find that. You understand? But the key with the pressing again is to making sure that your numbers. You have to, let's say, to release these players. They have to slide. These players, again, they have to be connected. When they need to be up and they come across, they slide, he has to be 50-50. He can't go back because he's there, still there. He might drop on there. If he goes to the goalkeeper, nearest man goes. What is he doing next? So he's got there to jump. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is, it's easy.
But it's a very complex kind of thing.
It is, because if we work together as a unit, we are almost like attached with an invisible rope. You understand?
Yeah.
So he goes, he slides, and we talk. The invisible rope is talking, communication. But that's again what I tried to say. He then has to come up because he has to sweep, But the thing with that is that has to be done on the field, on the coaching pitch. You have to explain it, maybe on the board, maybe with animations, with what we always used to do now, maybe with pictures, with animations on the screen.
Yeah.
To making sure that the players fully understand the picture on the stand, and then in the pitch you have to practice it. But it doesn't help if one day it is Lindelof and Johnny Evans, and the next game is De Ligt and Martinez. You understand? So that has been one of the inconsistent things.
Would you say that the back line kind of having the back line being not familiar with each other, is that a huge thing both on and off the ball? Because obviously the patterns, the routines, the communication, like you say in there. Do you think that not having a constant back four, I think there was a time earlier in the season where we did play the same back four, maybe 3-4 times, but then as soon as we started to see other players come into the back line and certain players injured and stuff, that just crumbled. Would you say that it's a huge thing for our managers to have that? Because I think Liverpool right now, one of the best teams in the Premier League currently, I don't think they've changed their back line from Trent, Canate, Van Dijk, Robertson, Alisson. How important is that, having a back line consistently available? Very,
very important. It is the base of every performance, because if you can lean on them five, solid, all the time, they know what they're doing, they know their job, you know what I mean? Same with Arsenal, with Gabriel and the other one, they've been, and White, they've been, and Saliba, they've always been there, you know what I mean? And yes, it's massively important, because that creates that, because at the end of the day, if you know that you're going to be hard to score against, because you got a really good back line with a good goalkeeper, no problem at all. The problem is, like I said, the inconsistency in here, plus the fact that a lot of times the spaces are too big. These guys start swimming, and then they're straight at the back line. And I don't know, but to be fairly honest, I don't think Manchester United is really, really blessed with a lot of pace at the back.
Well, that's what I think.
If you look at them, all of them, right? I think that the strikers from the opposition team, they
fancy it.
They fancy a race, at times, especially if they leave spaces in behind. And that's another thing why, probably players that haven't got a lot of space don't want to push up that high, because they don't want to give that space away. But you can't do it. If you can't push up, you can't press.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think. Ralph Rangnick has a really famous quote where it's like, you can't be half pregnant.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't half press.
100%.
And that's the same thing. With the back line, Manchester United have recruited Mazraoui, De Ligt, Martinez. Do you think they've gone for maybe, and we're looking at the midfield now with Casemiro and Eriksen, again, not really physically good enough to manage these massive spaces. And obviously they're not helped by the structure, by the compactness issues. Do you think that Manchester United have targeted not the wrong type of players, but they could have gone for more physically dominant players in the back line, in the midfield, so they could carry out this really aggressive? Because you look at Arsenal, Liverpool, even City now with the big lads they've got in defence. Every single team has these physically dominant centre halves, and it feels like, as you're saying there, for Manchester United, the mobility in the back line, the physicality to go 1v1 doesn't seem a prominent part of the back line.
Again, the pressing in general has to start with the mentality, the attitude of the players. I think there's plenty of energy there. and whether it's Højlund or as Erik say, Bruno, and let's say Rashford for argument's sake, there's plenty of energy there. It's these guys that haven't got the legs. Even Ugarte is not the most mobile guy. The one that has legs is Kobe Mino, but he's obviously injured. But he's still not as experienced. If Man United play in a game where they dominate possession, you've got a lot on the ball, great, not a problem. Although, like I said, he's got a tendency to hit, sometimes unbelievable passes, like the one he did against Fenerbahce the other day.
Yeah.
One ball over the top to where Marcus should have scored.
Yeah.
But he also has a tendency to really give silly balls away. And then in transition, they're out of position, ping, 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 they're gone. You know what I mean? Then it comes straight back at the back line. With Mazraoui bringing in, I know him from his Ajax time, and basically his thing was, but because Ajax a lot of times played with a winger coming inside, so what is he going to do? But he was then moving on, and he was very good at this.
Yeah.
Good delivery and all this. I don't think he is the best of 1v1 defenders, and it's a bit similar to Dalot, and Dalot has played a lot of games, never injured, can play him, that works always hard, honest player. But again, he finds himself yesterday against West Ham in that unbelievable chance.
And he misses it.
And you have to put it away, you know what I mean? Like I said, you can't coach against that, because some of the football yesterday in the first half for Man United against West Ham was very good.
Yeah.
Very good. I thought the setup was good. The way that they used Bruno, the way that they released Garnacho, the way they released like Dalot in that case, even Bruno made a few forward runs. Højlund had a good attempt. So it was I thought, quite positive.
Yeah, I thought so too. Manchester United are now the biggest underperforming team on their expected goals this season, which is no surprise because we've missed a boatload of chances. Yeah. And I just wanted to finish on, we've got it set up here. This is probably what we've seen from Manchester United this season. We've seen the back three and the two in midfield with a forward five. And this has been quite prominent this season especially. And it's usually been this season a fullback next to a defensive midfielder and the other midfielder pushed up into one of these spaces.
Yeah.
What do you make of the in possession structure? I've got a stat here that says that Manchester United's sequence time, so the amount of time they spend on the ball, and their direct speed is one of the highest in the league. So they're setting up to have loads of the ball, but then their temperament on the ball and their emotional kind of playing of the ball, it seems really direct. They're trying to play really fast.
I read somewhere in the start of the season, because they were asking Erik about his philosophy and style, and he said he wanted to make United the quickest reaction team. So in other words, regain and straight away bang, can we find a forward pass? You saw some examples from it.
The West Ham
yesterday. Although there's plenty of moments in the game when that forward pass isn't on to hurt opposition, you need to keep the ball, because I do think that, honestly, what United have lost a little bit over the years is that dominance in possession. We always were big on dominating possession, because when we have the ball, they don't have it, they can't hurt us.
Yeah,
exactly. The key then is to turn that possession into a purposeful
attack.
A purposeful attack. Or again, it depends all score. The score line. It depends on what game you're playing, home and away, whatever it is. But possession is important to drag people out of position and all sorts of things. If you constantly think you win the ball, bang, you need to go forward. But let's assume that's not the case. You give it straight back. If it's on, of course, you do it. Yeah. And that is a thing sometimes where they do that, they try it, but they lose it. And then because so many players are out of position, they go bang, bang, boom, and they're out.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think. I think Manchester United being so maybe over forward thinking at times is not only hurting them on the ball because they can't sustain the attacks, but it's also hurting them when they turn over the ball, because they've, like you've just said there, they've only got 2 here, 3 here. They're not physically imposing enough. They're not mobile. So they turn over the ball. They've got a forward 5, and the opposition team are looking at the space in behind and going, we can get at that. Yeah. And I feel like what you just said there, the inability to maybe retain the ball and keep the ball in certain moments. I do like direct football, I like the fast-paced football, but sometimes what you just said there is bang on. They don't breathe enough on the ball. They don't have enough of rest time, if you say. Yeah.
Now, I have to say, and the other, I think one of the other problems is that obviously you mentioned it before, that the amount of goals that they sort of conceded is that, again, and I'll pick an example from last Thursday against Fenerbahce. You know what I mean? And Fenerbahce came out of the blocks, they came out of the traps really strong, put Man United under pressure, couldn't get out, win the ball back.
Yeah.
And then the cross comes in. And again, that has all to do, once again, with the inconsistency of not having a set back four, because you got a player running, he comes in, the ball is there, he's ball watching, he's not seen him run. It's obviously a great cross, but that could never happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That can never happen, and things like that. They let people run off. They're not like aware at times, and that has to do with that 100% that inconsistency of not having that consistent backline. And again, we talked about it. If you have midfielders that can do both, protect that as well as a little bit, because a lot of times you see people running from deep, you know, and not get picked up.
No, for sure. I think what you're speaking about with kind of the backline communication, we are gonna finish this up on one thing. What do you think is the biggest tactical thing they have to change, Manchester United? What is the one thing to salvage the points, to win games, to get over the line in certain moments? What do you think is the biggest worry?
Two big ones. Defensively, I think they need to be simple, higher. But like you said, you talk about that 4-4-2. But these guys are so important.
Need to be narrow.
These guys, they need to be linked with them. That so let them go. If they no problem. Now you got a solid line. Look that they have to go around. No problem. Slide. Everybody slides. No problem at all. That's one. And I don't like. And yes, you got players in these positions. I don't want them to be just on the line. I don't want them to be too rigid. You know what I mean? Yes, you need a striker, make sure he pins the centre backs to get him behind. Bruno can do runs and whatever, this and that, the other. But it is basically that scenario, and you go bang, 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 go around. But what happens if he suddenly goes inside? What is this guy? What is this guy going to do? Right? If he's higher, he comes in. Then he goes higher. So you got more fluidity. You know, at the end of the day, you always try to get more players than on the opposition side. So where do they come from? You know what I mean? And like I said, a lot of teams, they do play, you know, like I said, depending who it is, like City, they do play a bit lopsided. You just make it a 3. You know what I mean? So you can release, and there's the guy in the line, no problem. They can float, he can come in the pocket, but they always have these forward runs. Let's say if they the ball, bang, opposite pocket, bang, forward run. If the ball goes here, bang, bang, forward run. Those are the sort of things, the more flexibility in rather, because at the moment, what you see is that Bruno Fernandes gets the ball, or Eriksen gets the ball, a bit deeper here, or maybe drop it here, whatever, and then they make the run, and he'll find them. Yeah, even probably from deeper from here. But it's a little bit.
The chemistry's not there, is it? Like they're not. The timing.
They know these players know. They know that when he has got the ball, I'm on my bike, because where Fernandes is, here, there, he'll find a pass. So it's key for them to make the runs. But in the same time, if I'm the Blues, be ready, but make sure that Bruno Fernandes can't pass the ball, so you press him.
Yeah.
So you have to play a short pass, so you take that long ball out, that's one. But if you do is, if you got his head, if you got time in the ball, they need to be aware, he needs to be aware, the goalkeeper, because he's going to pop it in behind.
From what you've seen, what do you think is the best collection of Manchester United players at the moment? If everyone's fit.
Oh, that's a good one. if everyone is fit, but if everyone is fit,
which is never.
no, but I do think, you know, and it's such a shame, like with Luke Shaw constantly, you know, was a debate, he's injured, but he's obviously been, when he was fit, he was important.
Quality, yeah.
You know, he was important, and Martinez is a good, you know, is a winner, you know, plays at the edge, you know what I mean? It's good on the ball, playing it in, you know. De Ligt is normally a very good centre back, although I have to honestly say I do think he has tapered off a bit, you know, because when I saw him at Ajax, you know, when he made his move.
Think he's bigger?
I think he's gone heavier.
Yeah, because when I watched him at Ajax, he was very lean.
Yeah,
very
but
lean,
still
slender,
strong.
but still strong. And now I feel like
he's always, but he looks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's crazy because, fairly honest, I worked with Johnny Evans when he was younger. You know, he's played for me with the reserves. And I've always rated Johnny because great, intelligent, 2 feet, left and right, fantastic. And you saw him against Aston Villa.
Yeah,
outstanding.
I thought best player on the pitch.
But
incredible.
He's the first one to admit it. So I should not be on the team sheet.
He said that, yeah.
You know what I mean? And then we can talk about, okay, Harry Maguire, there's up for debate, the same thing. He says, yes, he's quite decent on the ball, but again, no mobility in that area in behind. So I think, to be fairly honest, Harrison, for me, it is actually sometimes it really hits a little bit the problem, hit the nail on the head in regards to the problem is it's hard to define the best 11. I think if you go back again, manages to make an impact. Maresco at Chelsea, yeah, massive squad, yeah, he's chopped it right down, but he had a clear idea in his mind. These are my guys, right, and those are my 11s, and this is how we're going to play. Bang, 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 bang. Man City probably similar with 1 or 2 tweaks because he can choose to play Foden or Bernardo Silva or you know what I mean, that sort of thing. Doku or
Savinho.
Yeah. So, but that is, I think, also one of the problems because all these inconsistent performances and inconsistent results.
Leave it so you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, people would say, yeah, Ganachi's probably has to be on the left hand side. He's a threat. He's constantly, this and that. If Højlund is fit, because that's the only striker we've got. So you can go through anything, but is that particularly the best team there is? So again, the quicker he could get back to consistency, to really establish that, secure this sign so they don't concede. You got a great base because United at this moment in time, they still have got the individuals to decide games, and that's, I think, a little bit what's happening at the moment.
Right, thank you very, very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this episode with René Meulensteen. And again, thank you very much for coming on. I really do appreciate it. And if you like this video, please like, comment and subscribe and rate us 5 stars on all streaming platforms for your podcasts. And we'll catch you again next week to do another Tactics Board review. Thank you, and we'll see you again next week.